Hey guys, what's going on? Today we are going through Intervene, right? This ability, which is perhaps one of the most insane abilities that warriors have had for a very long time, right? Firstly, it is a gap closer for your ally, right? For you to get to an ally. And a lot of the times, if you're playing melee cleave or even casters with casters or in twos, you need to get to the DPS, right, to your target, right? And it's much, much easier if you have an ability that closes that, but lets you keep charge and leap, right? So pretty nutty. Just as that. That alone would be a really good ability for us to have coming into Shadowlands, right? But then you look into it a little bit more, right? And it has a second use. It intercepts all melee and ranged attacks against the target that you're intervening for 6 seconds while they remain within 10 yards. So, doubly good, right? It not only closes the gap, right? But a lot of the times, the people that are attacking your target or your ally are usually the people you want to hit, right? A lot of the times, you want to be hitting the people that your target is hitting. And then the last part is 10 yards is a pretty big distance. Like it's not huge, but it's pretty big. So for instance, I'd probably say if we go here, we intervene this guy, right? This is probably the range at which you can safely still absorb hits. So you can be running around this guy in this circle, right? And still be completely fine. You're going to be taking all the hits for him. The next part, which is nuts, right, is the cooldown. Cooldown is 30 seconds on this ability, right? That is actually crazy when you think about it. So, pretty much for 30% of the game, wait, for six of the game, so 15% of the game, you will be like, you could hypothetically absorb all damage from that target, right? Which is actually crazy when you think about how many high value spells you can absorb with this, like stuns, blinds, saps, um, all this other crazy stuff, right? But you can also absorb a whole bunch of damage. And fortunately for you, because you're a warrior, right, you have a couple of spells which make you very good at mitigating damage. The first thing, defensive stance, right? Reduces all damage you take by 20%, right? So immediately, all that damage that's going onto your target is mitigated by 20%. The other thing is you have armor. You have very high armor values. So I have 33.69. If you have a bit less gear, you might be somewhere along the lines of like 32, 31. But still, right? You're mitigating like 50% of this damage. I'm not sure if that's the exact calculation because obviously, I don't know how it's calculated, but roughly, let's say like 40 to 50% of the damage is mitigated if it's like a clothy, right? Obviously, the clothy has armor. You get what I mean. Like, it's a lot of damage mitigation. But then that's not all. You also have ignore pain, right? Which gives you like it doesn't cost mana, right? It doesn't. It's not like a resource you have to really track. Um, it uses your rage, right? So you can mitigate the damage you take with the defensive stance, ignore pain, and if it's so high, you can also mitigate with die by the sword. So you can not only parry the damage, but if it's non-parryable like hunter damage, you can soak it. You can completely soak the damage, right? So essentially, you'll be taking 30 plus 20% plus like whatever the armor value difference is, right? That's how much damage you can mitigate. So in a way, it's pretty much like bopping a target every 30 seconds for 6 seconds, right? And when I mean bopping, right? It stops Stormbolt. Like you'll soak the Stormbolt, you'll soak pretty much every physical ability you can think of, right? The final thing that makes this crazy is obviously the duration, right? We know the duration 6 seconds. That's a long time, right? Let me go intervene this guy and show you how long that is, right? This is still going on, right? Like for this entire duration, we have it up. So the final thing is, I got two more things to add to it, right? One, you can use intervene to stop polys on yourself if you're versing like rogue mage. So when you intervene the DPS or your healer and they're hitting your healer or DPS, they can't poly you for those 6 seconds because the rogue will break your polys for you, which if they do poly you, puts you on poly DR. If they don't poly you, well, it means you have full uptime and you can Blade Storm, you can Spell Effect right out of it. So essentially, for like 12 seconds, you could be completely unpeelable with magic, right? Or Ring of Frost or any of this stuff. The final thing is the Finesse Conduit. The Finesse Conduit safeguard means that the target takes 12% less damage, right? Which, not only mitigates it for them if you walk away, and let's say you just safeguard, but you need to stay on a target that runs away, they're still getting mitigation. But it also means if you stay there, you're taking even less damage than you normally would, right? It means that the damage that hits you is 12% lower, right? Because obviously the physical and range damage that hit the target, get divided by, sorry, multiplied by whatever this multiplier is, 12%, reduced by 12%, sorry, and then your ignore pain, then your D stance, then all this stuff. So it's pretty crazy in that regard. And you can buff it with abilities like Overwatch against caster cleaves, right? So it's still got a use apart from a gap closer against caster cleaves. And, you know, you can use Overwatch and you can use legendary, this legendary here, right? So you have almost like two team based Spiral Flex. Nuts, right? Absolutely crazy. So I have some clips I'm going to show. I've noticed like some people have been saying I don't show enough clips. I just talk too much. Personally, for me, it's much easier for me to explain something to you, the basis of what I'm about to talk about, without showing a whole bunch of clips of arena. Right? Uh, it's like I like to show the exact moments of the clips, but I'm going to be frank, I don't have enough clips of like exactly what I want to show a lot of the times. Um, to just put on the background, and I feel like it kind of takes away from the point. So if you're watching this and you don't enjoy that format, I completely understand. I think Skill Cap, Magnus, Joe Fernandez, whole bunch of people have excellent guides, warrior guides. Go for it, right? It's completely up to you if you want to watch these. It's not. I'm not forcing you. So I guess to go back to my main point, right? The the idea of this video is to cover how to use intervene well, firstly, what it is, which we just talked about, right, and all the different potential uses. We're going to show some clips, right, and I'm going to show more clips than normal. Um, so apologies if people have been wanting more of those, but generally, yeah, like I said before, it's a lot of effort to edit those all together. So I try and make it a little bit of me just talking while I'm explaining this stuff, right? I'm going to show some examples of different types of intervenes you can do. And finally, before we get into that, I wanted to talk about how to actually use it well, right? Because intervene is a very versatile spell, and I think it's a huge candidate for nerfs. Firstly, right? I think it is absolutely too strong to be in this game right now. In the current meta, as good as warriors are with damage, utility generally, banner, rally, AoE damage, burst, single target damage, all this kind of stuff, right? Like adding intervene on top is kind of just like a fuck you to every other DPS, like melee DPS out there. It just makes it makes every comp we play pretty much viable because we can kind of peel and add something to everyone. So um, let me talk a little bit about what a good intervene is, right? It's very situational. When I see a lot of bad intervenes, firstly, is usually they'll be using intervene either to stop a poly on themselves when they could have just gotten dispelled. They overwatch like a cyclone, but don't realize like you're playing against, I don't know, like warrior boomy, right? And you need the intervene to soak damage from the warrior. It's done when you're also low health, right? So if you're very, very low health, you can't really be going out and spamming intervene because you are going to get clapped, right? Like you still take a lot of damage. So a lot of warriors aren't swapping into D stance, ignore painting, and taking the necessary precautions to not die in that intervene, right? So you need to kind of take note of that. I think the other thing is you're not doing it more frequently enough, and maybe you're doing it randomly, right? So where intervene is really, really powerful is when your healer is CC'd. Because when your healer is CC'd, they're kind of stressing out about how to heal one target. Obviously, one target at 5% HP is a lot scarier for a healer than two targets, one target at 60% and the other target at 60%, right? Two 60% HP targets are much more manageable than one target at 5%, obviously because of execute. Most classes have some form of execute to finish off a target. Um, just the sheer fact that cooldown is going to be overused to keep that target up, that's not even a bad thing, right? Like if I'm at 5% and I parry and my healer sacks me, it's like, well, I don't know what you expected to happen. Like I'm one melee hit away from dying, this kind of stuff. So it slows the game down a lot. The other thing I think are really like that kind of shows good parries is, always syncing it up with the goes. So what I'll notice when I play twos, right, is that a warrior will parry quite kind of randomly as a gap closer, right? He'll gap close to his healer to peel me. But then I just realized, cool, he doesn't have parry for my actual go. So parrying preemptively isn't necessarily the best thing. And I'm not saying I do perfect parries every game. I probably make huge mistakes in the majority of my parries, which is what we're going to be covering. Sorry, not my parries, my intervenes, right? Um, but the final thing is that you're not communicating to your team, or obviously it's a bit of your team has to do something right, and you have to communicate it. Once you communicate it, it's sort of up to them. Um, you're not communicating to your team enough about what intervene does, right? So intervene requires them to be within 10 yards. So if you intervene and they just like, I don't know, use Night Fae like Fox thing to run away, sometimes that's better, right? Obviously, because completely taking zero damage is better than taking damage. But other times it's worse because then they can gap close. You've wasted 6 seconds on intervene, right? Once the two melee reach the target, and they don't have Night Fae, so you've overused. So you have no intervene, you have no Night Fae ability, and that's just one example. The final example is when the target uses a big immunity, right? So if you intervene somebody and they also get bopped or like sacked or what is it, ice block, right? You're going to be taking all the damage that the ice block would have taken, right? So they can still hit the ice block or like hit the bop and still hit you. So sometimes the people at lower ratings don't realize they've bopped and you've intervened. You're going to take a whole bunch of cleave damage, so you got to run out straight away when that immunity is used to make sure that you don't soak all the damage from intervene on an immunity. For something like sack, it's not the biggest deal because obviously the sack dot has to be repaid somewhere. So you intervening some of it means that I guess the sack dot's smaller, which on a longer term is okay, but it does create more pressure for your team, and they can easily swap you, right? So let's jump into the clips where we look at some good intervenes, some bad intervenes, and all the like that. I'm gonna pull some from VOD submissions. So we're just gonna look at a couple of them. Um, I think we'll go through VOD submissions. I haven't really made my mind up on that yet. I'll have a look through them. We're gonna show some clips of my games, the good intervenes, the bad intervenes, and the types of intervenes. Right. All right. See you in the next clip. Okay, first clip here. This is probably the nuttiest intervene I've done by accident, right? And it kind of shows that intervene is still really good even if you cast it on the wrong target, right? Especially against RMP. So here I see my rep pally is sapped, my priest isn't any CC, right? But I come out of this, I get the rogue out with a blade storm, and he gets a deep wound on him. So what I normally do against RMP, right, is I want to get the intervene out straight away, and here I instead of intervening the rep pally, which is taking the damage, I accidentally intervene the Disc Priest. But if you look at the duration of that sap, they're going to try and get something out of that sap, which is usually blind, right? And fortunately, the luckiest thing seemed to coalesce and work out here. So let's have a look. So I hit the rogue a little bit. There's combustion. I rally. I disarm the rogue, and then I get blinded, right? So in the last like millisecond of that intervene, um, I get blinded because the priest is close enough where the blind will hit me. So that's a big thing you can do against rogues. When they're trying to get that resap and you know it's coming, or they're about to use blind, right? Go and hit that intervene on your healer if you are pretty sure it's going to happen. Don't really get in the habit of doing it too much. I feel like it's better against RMP trying to soak damage. Here, if I actually intervene Jake, with my rep paladin, we probably would have won anyway, and this would have been fine. But still, it's pretty crazy how much you can get out of this. Because he intervenes, sorry, he blinds me, and I'm in the meteor, right? I don't even have to commit trinket. And you can see here, like that single, what's it called? Counterspell on my healer. If they got that, if they had that full blind as well, and he had no trinket, we would have absolutely been in such a worse place to win this game. All right, on to the next clip. Okay, so I'm going to show you what a good intervene against you looks like, right? So this is roughly at 3k MMR, 2.9k MMR, and we're versing Feral Druid, Kitty Cleave, right? Featured in a video soon that'll come out. I'm not sure which one comes out first. Um, so I get a stun on the Feral, right? It's looking pretty good. I got some pretty big damage coming up. We've got Warbreaker, a Sharpen here, right? And then just as is in execute range, and if I swung again, I got an 11.2k crit with that, which is nutty, right? He has not much to go off. He gets the intervene right there when my global comes up to execute again. So my executes are going into the warrior who's in D stance, right? And what he does, instead of using Stormbolt right now, is he holds Stormbolt just as the Feral leaps away, right? So the intervene's still on him, he's soaked with that damage. And when I try and move to catch up to him, I'm Stormbolted, right? So really, really good play by them. Pretty insane. And just an example of how potent intervene can be when used by, good players and in coordination or some type of decision making there. Okay, here's another one where I'm using the Overwatch Reflect Legendary and just a bit of the mind and decision making in using it, right? So here I'm hitting the Boomkin. I see this Paladin's going for a Hodge. A lot of the times I could intervene the Hodge, but look, my intervene's on cooldown right now. So I notice, cool, right? I tell my Paladin just live for a little bit longer. I use Sophia so he can't really get the Hodge rep straight away. And we're able to kind of stop that go until my intervene reflect is back up. I see the Incarn here and the Hodge come out on my Paladin, so I'm immediately thinking, cool, I need to intervene this next go. It's double cast, so you don't really have to think about the damage, right? So there, the rep gets cast, and I wait until about 3/4, even a bit longer, right? You can see at this image, it's got a bit of screen tearing, sorry, in the middle there because I just paused it. You can see exactly when I decide to use the intervene, right? It's when the repentance is almost completed, just so you can't stop the cast in time. Some really good ones will, but a lot of people won't have the reaction time because they're not used to intervene reflect, right? And then we get the intervene reflect on the rep, and even with this go, right, we turn it around. So it's our go now. I switch, um, very offensive here. We're pumping away, and we get a sack for it, right? So use your Overwatch cooldown wisely and try and incorporate it with your team. See, the issue with the Overwatch is a lot of the times they'll be able to poly or rep right afterwards. So while you get that offensive pressure to begin with, you still have to deal with the fact that cool, that ability is probably going to be used again very soon, and perhaps it's worth thinking about what your next stop is. Okay, so this is one on how to sort of react when you intervene against a pretty high octane cleave arms warrior enhancement shaman, right? So I see the DPS connect to my rep pally here. I intervene him, and what I immediately do is, if you see now, I'm in B stance, and then I swap into D stance as soon as possible. Yep, D stance there and ignore pain, right? So here, they got pretty good pressure out on my Paladin. Like they got into 20%, but think about the fact that I'm on 67%. They're not even cleaving that much right now, and my Paladin's at 80%. If all that was stacked on him, he'd be looking at like 40%. And my healer just got out of the Hodge, so it'd be huge mana on him to live through this. Because of that, we're able to stop a lot of dam and kind of peel off and stay alive. Okay, another one here. I see the reversing Windwalker, Boomy, Holy Pally, huge damage here against this type of team. What I want to do here is intervene on my Ret Pally. I think it's my Ret, or maybe the Disc, I'm not sure. And probably parry very soon after. With Zuen out and Fist of Fury and just general AoE from the Windwalker, we are very, very scared about how much output this takes out. So I intervene I think my priest in a second here. I intervene him and he bops at the same time, which is a really, really bad bop, right? Because it's intervene unless there's a big reason not for it to be intervene, right? Um,
Bop is okay if it was Karma and we're taking Karma off, but here I realize how much trouble I'm in, and I'm soaking damage from not only the Bop, so I get booped off, which is kind of good, but then I charge back into range, so I'm still soaking this damage, so I instantly parry here at 38%, just because you don't know how much damage you're going to take from both sources, and I try and get distance away from the person I was hitting. So again, be really, really careful about using those immunities and your intervene. Sometimes maybe it's worth asking, hey, you're going to use that immunity. Are you going to use Bop now before you actually commit the intervene? Okay, so this is an example of poor communication by the team on my intervene, right? So the mage, I'm on top of the mage, right? I see this Ring of Frost coming down, so I'm thinking, cool, if I intervene right now, I can get DR'd on Poly, right? I already banned it for my Disc Priest, so he's okay. Um, I can get DR'd on the Poly, and I can soak some damage and stuns, right? But you'll see what happens next. I stun the Rogue, and I go for the intervene when the rogue, so like pretty much to cover because I see the poly being cast on me too. And then my rep moves away from me and eats the damage far away. I get MC'd as well, so the intervene does practically nothing. But it seems like we're still soaking some damage even from there. If you look at the top of the bar, I am still soaking some form of damage, but because I'm in this MC, it doesn't seem to do much. I'm not sure where that damage is coming from. I'm pretty sure it's on the rep paladin, but still, if he was near me, we would have been able to probably break me out of that and kind of play a bit better around it. So always communicate that you're intervening and that they need to stay 10 yards for it to work. All right, guys. Hope you appreciated the video, right? I've got definitely way more content coming for you. Very, very soon. We upload on a daily basis, so you can always check out my channel. Please consider subscribing, joining the Discord, following the Twitch. It really, really helps us grow. Again, thank you so much for the subs. Right, we're at I think we're already at 1,100 subs or something, somewhere along that line, which is nuts. We've just been growing so quickly. If you know anyone who could benefit from this video, please share it. If you have any positive, constructive feedback, let me know. If it's negative feedback, you can post it. I'm not going to delete it, but I'm probably not going to take it into account either. Um, Definitely use intervene as much as possible. Make it a mainstay of your warrior gameplay. It will get nerfed soon, I believe, and maybe this will age very, very poorly if it's not nerfed this whole expansion. But in my opinion, it's a bit too strong for the current meta. Um, but we'll see how that goes. Take it easy, guys. Peace out.